The pressure, the pressures of
It's so lovely to have you. You've just got such a great energy and it's coming through so
thank,
well at the moment.
thank you so much. Thank you.
So hip. It really helps. It
For
helps make things
for
easier.
a 50-year-old, I think I'm pretty hip. Yeah, my kids won't say so.
No.
But
Thank you so much for joining us, though, Alex.
thank
I spoke a little bit earlier when I introduced you about your title as Chief Purpose Officer. And I want you to sort of delve into what this means. I actually haven't heard that term, anyone describing their portfolio as a Chief Purpose Officer. And I found that to be quite moving. Now, the first thing, we want to know who you are. Who is Alex? Your background and a story. What drives you? I know you've got a really great story about your background on your website, and I'd strongly recommend anyone who hasn't been on your website to have a look. But I want you to just give us a little bit of a tidbit into who you are and what drives you.
So in 1970, okay, that's the long version. Uh, Alex, who is Alex? I am a, you've already said international speaker, chief purpose officer at Twice Blue, Think Shifter. I'm an author of 4 books. But really, I think I am a man who is seeking to make a huge difference with whoever I come into contact with. Um, I'm not striving to be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. If that happens, great. But I really believe that I need to try and make a difference in my own circumference, in my own radius, in my own space. And so I strive that for every person I meet, whether I'm on stage speaking or whether I'm coaching one on one, I must make an indelible difference to that person's life and they must leave feeling much better. I'm married, I've got 2 children. I can't call them children. Nicola Kuchikolo, who's connected here, she's 20 something. Sure, she doesn't want to know me to tell everyone she's 20, but she's 20 something. My son turned 18 on Sunday, and we are all entrepreneurial in our house. Each one of us, all 4 of us, are kind of like business people in our own space. My daughter's a musician. My son is though he's still a student, he is a musician. He's a beat maker. My wife runs a bag business, and she also has a garden that she grows organic food. And I'm vegan, so that really helps. And I love traveling. This obviously COVID is really messing up with my mojo.
Mm.
I love traveling. I miss being on a plane. I miss the turbulence. I miss the scary times. But most of all, I really miss being on stage, sharing messages of hope
Oh.
and hopefully changing lives as we go along. So that's really who I am. I also love music. I'm a Christian, so I go to church and I enjoy worship. And yeah, I guess that's where I hold on to a bit of hope right now during these difficult times.
Very nice. I could totally feel the passion when you said I miss being on stage because I'm right there with you.
Ooh,
It's just one of those things. Yeah. And now it actually drives me into our next our first question.
yeah,
If if being on stage, and this being on stage is what it is for us, but for someone else it's something else that you've
yeah.
sort of tied your identity to, and it encapsulates who you are. It could be maybe you're someone who plays rugby, or you do some kind of work that unfortunately at the moment you're not able to do. So your whole identity starts to come to question. And what actually starts to happen to our identity during a crisis?
Look, I don't think our identity changes per se. I think we begin to value certain things a bit more. Our identity is made up of our core values and our attitudes and our beliefs and our principles and our morals. These are the things that make us who we are. And I think during a lockdown like this, where you're now confined to a particular space, you begin to relook at yourself and say, okay, geez, I realize I haven't really been a great communicator. I haven't been in touch with
Mm,
and then it speaks to self. So what do I do? What do I need to change about me? Not everyone, unfortunately, is going to change. Some people will be quite content. Well, this is actually great that I'm on lockdown, so I don't have to see who's ban, And
yeah.
but I think from an identity point of view, what it does is it really makes you introspect, makes you think again. And I found myself doing that in the first 2 weeks of lockdown. My first week was just panic attacks every day. I was finding myself sitting down. What? I can't get I go out, and I'm that guy. I just like to get out and go out. And so my identity really hasn't changed per se, but I've had to be adaptable to the
Hmm.
change. of the world. If you're not changing, they say you're the architect of your own decay. You've got to continually change and adapt to what's going on around you. And many people are just like, oh, you're a speaker, okay, we just go online, do a Zoom thing. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
It now, I can tell you, I do not derive the most pleasure from being like in this space behind a phone or behind a computer and sharing. I'm the guy on stage with the energy I want to go into people. So, but my identity hasn't changed. My
Okay.
personal, I'm still Alex. I still enjoy life. I still have fun. But I think what has changed is my perception of life, and what are the most important things and what do I value more and what am I going to do about it? So there's no point in just saying, oh, geez, this thing is teaching me this, but I do nothing
Mm,
about it. I must act on that which I have learned, something that's
yeah.
new. And I think that is kind of like part of the personal mastery journey, is to know self and then to improve self. I
Wow.
think.
So does self then change in any kind of way, so that do you have to now do any kind of relearning of the new self, or is it
Oof.
self is still the same and there's just aspects of it that's changed? Because most people literally are going through a kind of identity crisis during this time, where you feel like you no longer know. You would say that you get this introspection that leads you to go, oh my goodness, who am I really without this and
Yeah,
this and this, and seeing my friends and going out to wherever I used to go out to and posting pictures at the beach on Instagram? Who
absolutely.
do I then become? So it literally does link to that.
Do you know, I mean, and this is the work that you do with the learning and unlearning, and I think it was Alfred Toffler who had that
Yeah.
fantastic phrase about the difficulty of unlearning. Many
Mm-hmm.
of us learn, but what we're doing sometimes, we're adding layers and layers of bad habits on top of
Yeah.
things that really are in us that need to be unlearned. For me, I think that evolving is painful for most people. That's why most people don't do it. Becoming a better version, and I've heard this expression so many times, I used to hate it, but it actually makes sense. Becoming a better version of
Yeah.
yourself requires time, it requires energy, it requires humility, it requires study. And evolving means constantly becoming a child again. You must
Wow.
become a teachable student again, over and over. And you must constantly be admitting, I don't know. And this is the space we find ourselves in right now, is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
don't know how to adapt. Because we're living in, and I hate the word because it's been used everywhere, in unprecedented times. None of us have lived through this kind of thing in our lives. I've never been confined to my home for 6 weeks. Very difficult. So what we're having to learn, and even now, many of us are waiting with anxiety because the president is speaking in a few hours. We don't know what he's going to say. Many people are thinking, oh, it's going to be lockdown 3. What if it's like, guys, it's really bad. Let's shift to lockdown 5. Or
Yeah.
maybe some provinces might have to go back to 5, others might go to 3. I mean, I think of the Northern Cape, they should be on 1. You know what I mean? So I think the point is evolving is difficult. Now, let me give you a story about the
Yeah.
challenge of evolving. And because the worst thing you can do is insist that you already know everything. And I think that's why it's
Exactly.
difficult. I mean, if you think about unlearning, people are so set in their ways and are not prepared to change. Now, you know that famous chef Gordon Ramsay. He was on the show called what is it called, Kitchen Nightmares or something like that.
Yeah.
And what
Yes.
yeah, he would go around the country in the UK or in the US, and he would audit struggling restaurants and question their processes and how they cooked. And the story is told that he visited this one restaurant and he found a very stubborn and arrogant chef who had been there for like 38 years. And so Will Smith, he says, you know, the only difference between me and somebody else is the fact that I'm prepared to die on the treadmill.
Wow.
It's such a great story.
Wow.
The person who's interviewing him says like, can you explain? He says like, no one will outwork me. He says,
Mm.
if you get on a treadmill and I get on a treadmill, there's only two things that are going to happen. It's either you getting off or I'm going to.
Or I'm gonna die.
So the thing is,
Wow.
what are you prepared to live for and what are you prepared to die for? And you can be tuning in now. We might not have the actual physical solutions for you, but I think it all starts with our mindsets. How we think. Are we stuck in the fixed mindset, like Carol Dweck talks about the fixed mindset or the growth mindset,
Yeah.
or are we in this benefit mindset? And for me, the purpose-driven individual resides in a benefit mindset. The benefit mindset says everything that I do must benefit somebody else, not me. I benefit
Wow.
as a result of other people benefiting. And I think that's a great thing, to just share on that.
Yeah, I agree. And you've just reminded me, I was speaking to Graham Codrington
Yeah.
not too long ago, and he was asking how I'm doing and everything else. And I told him something that I'd heard from Lisa Nichols, who is absolutely one of my favorite human beings and such an inspiration.
Yeah.
And she'd said that there are sowing times and there are reaping times.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us at this moment, and even for myself, I'm finding so much that 2020 now, where it is so much of a sowing year. And it goes to what you're saying, Alex. It's creating those connections. It's putting down those systems in your mind, those alarm clocks that go off on themselves, hardwiring yourself in your mind at this time, so that even when things change, or eventually if they do, you've just got this hard wiring that just keeps on going in your mind. And Eric Thomas speaks so much about that it's you don't even need any kind of alarm clock, he says, is because that purpose and the reason why you do what you do excuse me, ends up actually waking you up. It means it doesn't just wake you up, but it actually drives everything that you do. And it even drives seeing the opportunity even in times of crisis, because
Yeah.
the way that things are, like we were saying earlier, it doesn't mean that everything is falling apart. It's only falling into place.
Yeah.
And whether or not you see that place is up to you. It's about your perception. It's about your mindset, like you just said.
And you've just said it in your last line. It's that self-belief thing. And when I think about some of the celebrities, for example, I mean, you can think about Bonang. Bonang, yeah, Bonang is a great story. Here's a young lady who is from Mahikeng. Okay, firstly, we always expecting the greatest success to come out of Joburg, Cape Town, or Durban, because these are the mega cities. Mahikeng, like no one talks about it, but now people are talking about it because of her and Casper. But here's the story of a young lady whose mom, her mom is or was or has retired, was an HR for a mining company. Her father, a lecturer, and Bonang drops out of school. I mean, do you understand what I'm talking about? Here you have,
I hear you.
I believe so much in what I want to do in following my path as a celebrity, as a change maker, as an influencer, that I'm going to drop out of school and do this regardless of the fact that my father's a teacher and my mother's an HR executive. And she follows that dream and she lives it. One of the most important success factors is definitely self-belief. In other words, your level of how successful you will be is generally accurate. It's generally accurate. The difference is whether you believe it or not. So Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you believe you can? Do you believe you can win? Can you envision yourself with your goals completed? If you can't, you almost certainly will never. What you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. And normally, when I do one of my talks, I have a screen. It's just a white background, and there's a large blue circle. And then I ask the audience, what do you see? And they say, they see a blue circle. And then I click again, and then there's a red dot in the middle. Okay. And then I say, what do you see? They say, okay, we see the red dot and we see the blue circle. And then it's a simple thing of focus. And I say, focus on the red dot. And even if you're tuned in right now, you has joined us, hi Stewart. Even if you joined us now and you're watching, it's not a magic trick. Take a white piece of paper, draw a blue line, and draw a red dot in the middle of the blue line. And then focus intensely on the red dot in the middle, and the blue line disappears. It's not magic. It's the power of focus. So if you think of yourself as the red dot and the blue line around you is all the distractions and all the things that always, give you all the negativity that you want to move from here to New York. You're never going to make it. No one from South Africa has made it as a big speaker in New York. There goes that blue line. It just gets thicker and thicker. What do you want to do? You think you're going to drive the Maserati? You can't afford it. You can't even afford a Taz. There goes that big blue line. But when you focus on yourself, the distractions dissipate, they disappear. And that's what's important. If all you focus on is how much of a victim you are, you'll always be a victim. If all you can see is how unfair your circumstance is or your circumstances are, you'll be doomed to stay in your stagnation. Winners become winners by acting. acting like winners. And and
Mm.
and this is one of the points in my new talk, guys. My new talk is going to be amazing. We act as if. We got to act as if. And the point is really, you've got to don the costume. Put
Mm-hmm.
on that costume. Because when you begin living in the as if, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost the universe conspires on your behalf to say,
Yeah.
geez, you guys got big dreams. Let's support it. So, if you're rich, you don't make bad investments or foolish financial decisions. You act. So for now, if you're not rich, act it, and the
Mm-hmm.
riches catch up with you. If you're healthy, if you're a healthy human being, right? I mean, you look like a healthy young lady there, Zanele. If you're healthy, don't make bad decisions around what you eat. You're healthy because have your greens, have your whatever. You don't eat trash. So we need to begin even now, while we're in this COVID lockdown. We need to say to ourselves, in December, what will my life look like?
Mm-hmm.
And start living December now. Instead of waiting for things to happen, and what we do is we just react to them. We've got to become more proactive and respond to the opportunities and the possibilities. I know we're all over the place, but I'm just getting excited about a lot of things that you're talking about.
No, it's okay. Please feel free. It's perfectly all right. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat there, and then
Hey, no, but
Alex and I will just read those questions and make sure that they get addressed. We don't have a huge crowd, so we'll be able to just speak to everyone. Going back to identity before we end
yeah,
off, Alex,
yeah,
you just reminded me of something that I once heard about how human beings will act in a way, it's that whole self-fulfilling prophecy idea, that we
yeah,
will act in a way that is aligned to how we define ourselves. So it's like when people say, I don't do that kind of thing. And your friends say, oh, let's go out and maybe just have one or two glasses of wine. And you go, I don't, that's not me. I don't act in that particular way.
yeah.
And it causes everything that you do to be aligned to that. Even if one day you do actually feel like maybe just leaning back and having a glass of wine, because you've created this identity in your head that that's not who you are. And human beings want to be right. We want to be right. And
Mm.
what we see a lot of the time with the things around us is they just keep proving us right. Everything that happens around you is only happening, as you said, as a result of what's going on within yourself. It's only proving you right. It's your self-fulfilling prophecy that says, yes, you are so correct. You are not that type of person. But once the inner work starts to happen, then everything on the outside can start to change.
And I think it leads me to one of the points I wanted to share with those with all our viewers is that growth and comfort cannot coexist.
At
They
all.
can't. I mean, Abraham Maslow, he says that. He says you can either step forward into growth or backwards into security. And it's
Wow. Ooh.
quite a deep phrase that he said. I wish it was me. I like quotable quote. Growth growth means learning. Growth means working. Growth means doing. It means creating. Sometimes growth also means resisting. It also
Wow.
means failing. It means saying no. Comfort, on the other hand, means safety. Comfort means stability. It means protection. It means
Mm-hmm.
pleasure, feeling good. And that's why, if you ask someone, hey, listen, can we have a Zoom call at around 7 a.m.? Yeah, 7. See,
Yeah.
we're on lockdown. Can't we start at 11? No, you need to start creating. Don't be so comfortable. So the point of personal mastery and even the adaptation and the story you used with the ice, growth cannot happen as long as you choose comfort over learning. Growth and evolution are incubated, I'd say, in pain and
Wow.
discomfort. You
Mm.
can't grow unless there's pain.
Yeah.
You've got to pay certain prices as well. Spirit Moore is always saying you've got to pay the price, and he uses the story
Yeah.
of. He says this lady was walking in the train station and she looked up and she saw Picasso and she went up and she said, "Ah, Picasso, Picasso." And she said, "Oh my gosh, can you please draw me?" So he put out his canvas and within 30 seconds he's drawn her. And then he
Wow.
says, "Here you go, 1 million rand." And she says, "Ah, what? 1 million rand?
Mm.
It took you 30 seconds." He says, "Yeah, but it took me 30 years to learn how to paint your picture in 30 seconds." And
Wow.
he had to pay the price.
Mm.
So growth and development come incubated in pain and discomfort. So I think that's the first point is for people to realize for you to reinvent yourself, to shift the dynamics of your life, you've got to understand that growth cannot coexist with comfort. That's the first point.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
By the way, this is from my keynote. I'm busy sharing this. No one's ever heard. This is from my brand new keynote, which I'm only going to launch for when I'm on a real stage. I ain't doing this through Zoom. But
Really? No, don't restrict yourself.
ay, 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 ay. Pila,
Don't restrict yourself.
ay, ay, ay. I want to sing. I want to walk into crowds. I want to. Ay, ay.
Are you going to sing for us? You actually just reminded me that you are a singer. Maybe if we've got a few
I,
minutes a little later, then you
charge,
can sing for us as well. Would you be keen?
I charge for that. I charge. Maybe
That's fine.
I don't
That's
know.
fine.
Maybe I'll do a verse.
Or two.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. All right. No, we really appreciate that. Guys, please feel free to put any of your questions that you've got for Alex in
I'm
the chat
comments.
box right at the bottom.
I feel like dealing with some of these comments because people are saying hi.
A lot of people are actually sharing some really great stuff. They're
Who joined?
quoting
Yes.
some of the things you're saying. And I think everyone is actually having a ball.
I see my friends there. Camilo, nice to see you. Mbali, very profound. Thank you so much. Who else is there? Mbali, ha ha ha. I'm like, why are you laughing, Mbali? Sheldon,
because you're so funny. Okay,
Sheldon,
now let's move on.
Thanks again, Mbali. Yeah. Let's move on just now. Let me read. What's up, my good friend? It's very insightful. Thank you. Senator, great to listen to you, Alex, again. Our first interaction was Campari. I love Campari, guys. I think I've done 3 events with Campari. Sorry, it's a side.
Is it?
Yeah. So, but thanks, everyone.
Okay, we've actually got a request now from Senatorial One. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Please, Alex, can you please explain defining one's purpose again? So I think that'll come up actually in our next question, which is, okay, now what do we do? What do we do to get ourselves centered back into our purpose and who we are so that we can start realigning the rest of our lives to that? I've actually been saying to, I had a colleague of mine who's actually someone whose business I'd invested in, and he's in the agriculture business. And at the moment, he posted something on LinkedIn that was actually quite sad. And he said he's feeling so depressed because he's never been at a worse time in his business. And I offered to have a chat with him. But one of the main things that I was thinking is that it may seem a little bit sad to say, but I feel like we shouldn't be sitting down in the dumps. This is such a wonderful time to rewrite the script. Rewrite the script on who we are as people. Rewrite the script on what our businesses do. It's like a clean slate. How often, Alex, do you get a clean slate to make history? Think about businesses like Uber and Airbnb were created during times when the economy was an absolute bust. So it's a time for us to start to realign who we are. Now, speak to us a little bit about things that we can start to do from today to realign back with our purpose, find that purpose and that identity, and then start to work from there with reinventing our businesses and ourselves.
So I don't think it's as easy as that, because I think, here's the thing, many of us are emotional human beings, right? We're emotional. So what is going on right now is affecting us holistically. If you think about the 8 elements of the human being, the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, social, all those kind of things. Right now, the emotional part is taking up a lot of headspace. It's taking up a lot of headspace. And we need to be able to manage how much of that emotion is pressing us down, because it's the mental ability that actually lifts us up. It's the way that we think, our cognitive behavior that makes us think. So if we go back to that question, explain or define your purpose. Your purpose, for me, is a lifelong thing. All right. As I've explained earlier, what my purpose is making a difference in people's lives through the messages that I share. That will not change. What will change is perhaps the way I do it, the mediums I use, and how I self-improve to make bigger impact. So businesses and people, in fact, people are the business. You know, the business in itself without the people is just mechanics, transactions, and a lot of it's just things. But the people bring life to what the business is. It's that call center lady who calls you trying to sell you another insurance policy. How wonderful she, great she is, or how annoying she is. And you know how to tell before they even tell you they're calling from an insurance company. You know how to tell. The moment they say, "Hi, this is Wendy from wah, 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 wah," and you say, "Oh, hi, Wendy, how are you doing?" And they say, "Thank you for asking." You know they're about to sell you. I, yeah, those calls for me, they end quite quickly. But let's get back to what we were trying to say. I think, like you were saying, is we've been given a bit of reprieve during this period to relook and rework and reestablish ourselves and reset and reboot and do all those things, revive ourselves in the midst of all the confusion. Now, it's up to us as individuals to say, okay, what are we going to prioritize? Are we going to prioritize the fact that by the end of May, I'm not going to have enough money to cover my bills? Or am I going to prioritize the opportunity to generate new income streams, or new forms of work? Or am I just going to sit, like you're saying, I'm just going to sit back and just wait. Maybe my employer will call me. Maybe I'll get that increase or whatever. It ain't going to happen. We must be the architects of our lives. We must be the authors of our lives. We must write our lives. You can become anything if you're willing to pay the price, as we've already said. And I think it was Benjamin P. Hardy. He said, how much you improve is up to you.
Wow.
And during this time, and yeah, there's times where, and it's not like every single day you're going to wake up and have a flip chart up. And there are days where you're going to wake up and feel all pathetic and pity. Hey, man, cry. Have ice cream you have. Go for a walk. Go for a, swim. Do something. But what you can do is, after that, you can't keep doing all the negative things and pathetic things. You've got to wake up and say, listen, I've got to go and get it. I might not be able to move, but I've got to find ways of reaching out and finding some new ways of generating income. I'm finding myself in that space. My next speaking gig is next week, Friday. They paid me. They paid me in January. Hey, I done ate that money already. After that, my next gig is in July, all right? Which means between now and July, I've got May bills and June bills. I ain't got money. I'm not going to, because what I do have, I don't have money, but I have time. Right now, I have time. When you have time, and everyone has got the same amount of time, unfortunately, is finite. You've got to maximize and leverage every bit of opportunity you have within the time that's available. So you've got a choice. The choice you have is waking up and binging on Netflix for half a day, or waking up, getting on the computer, Googling and searching for opportunities, or if you don't even have an idea, picking up the phone or WhatsApping a friend and say, hey, I'm really stuck. I need help. For me. And someone calls and they might not have a solution for you, but just talking to someone is therapeutic, and it gives you a new frame of mind, and you can think better or drink water. But the thing is, we don't make the right choices. And P. Hardy says you can learn, you can have, or you can be anything you want to be. You can be a millionaire if you want to be. You can be an established expert. It's a choice thing. And the choice thing is not about choosing to be a millionaire. It's choosing the small steps that build the moment you become a millionaire, if that's what you want to be. If you want to be the Ironman triathlon, if you want to be able to beat Usain Bolt's 100 meters record, all we're going to see is you winning and beating that record. But what we don't see is what happens behind. And I've seen those quotes, oh, Usain Bolt only ran for 9.58 seconds. Then let's see how much his winnings are. And then we divide it. And that means his makings. No. What you don't see is his hustle. Because what we have learned now during lockdown is that actually, the world can continue rotating, because we can adapt and we can do things differently. And in fact, a lot of organizations are beginning to see great opportunities for efficiencies during this lockdown. So what does that say for real estate? Do I really need an office building to go to? So people like Liberty and Old Mutual and these guys own a lot of property. They're going to have clients saying, after this thing has happened, we don't need so many offices anymore. We don't need people to come to us, because they still can make money for us from their homes. We just may need to learn how to remotely manage people. And I think those are some of the new normals that will take place, is the way that we interact with people, the way that we travel. These Zoom conferences are inexpensive for clients on the whole. So there will be some saving there from, flights and hotel accommodation. And I still think there will be business for speakers like you and I to be able to, some people want to have an annual conference and people get together and they hug and they can do all these team building activities. So I two new norms: interim and then the long-term view where the world has really markedly changed. And it hasn't changed because just of COVID. It has changed because COVID has actually helped in the change. It has brought out new ways of work, smarter ways of work. If we didn't have this, we would continue doing things the old generic way. So this is great. And if you don't embrace this new way of work, you're going to catch up a year later and realize I could have
It'll
milked
be
it.
too late. Yeah. Okay, we have a question. So, Alex, while you read that question, I just want to invite everyone. It's funny that you mentioned vision boards. My guest on tomorrow's live Instagram session is actually an expert on the vision board. She does vision board workshops in Johannesburg and in other places within the country. Rebecca, she's going to be joining us tomorrow. So if anyone wants to learn how to actually create a vision board and what the purpose behind it is, that's going to be a really great session to attend. All right, the question, what structure or steps to improve and make changes in one's life? I mean, how can one make the changes such as is effective and one is not frustrated in the process? Because these processes can be quite frustrating. I do agree with him there.
I think one of the biggest pitfalls that we fall into is trying to make too many changes in a short space of time.
Wow.
So a few years ago, I went to a wellness function and bumped into good friends of mine, Joni Petty and Celine. And Joni had this device where some infrared or ultraviolet light goes into
It's so high tech, my
those things.
goodness.
And literally this thing kind of like burns on your hand for a few seconds. And then it measures your cholesterol, your stress levels, your all these things, just an ultraviolet light. And she said to me, Alex, you really are not healthy. And I knew it. And yeah, I know I'm not healthy. So what must I do? She says, you know what? I'm going to send you a list of 10 things you must do.
Wow.
What I didn't hear her saying was a list of 10 things to do over a period of time. So she said on WhatsApp, and I opened this WhatsApp, and it was just healthy stuff. Drink 10 glasses of water a day, exercise, go for a walk, do this, have greens, cut this food out. Man, I did that. Day one, I was running. I was doing this and that. By day 4, I was I was back to my normal routine. So let me ask a question, Senator. You're asking what is so for me. First thing you have to do is answer the question, why do I need to change? Right. Let me ask myself that question. Why do I need to change? And what is it that I need to change? So you first need to ask yourself those kind of questions before you start trying to change, because maybe you don't need to change. Maybe you need to improve. Maybe you need to stop. Maybe you need to cut out. Maybe you need to unlearn. If you don't believe it, give it a chance, give it a try. Because what it did for me was I had my mind set up on, okay, December, we're doing our trip. Every year we go with our family overseas, and I had prepared Zanele a trip to Doha, Miami, New York vibe. And literally before shutdown, 3 days before shutdown, I was due to pay for my trip.
Wow.
And when that happened, I realized, business is not going to happen here. I canceled it so that I could save the money for the long term. But that was happening. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying this to make us realize that when you begin to plan things, you mustn't just plan in your head. Once you start writing things down and creating a process and a plan and a chart with objectives, with milestones, your brain takes you more seriously. And somehow, that way aligned, the universe aligns with you. If you're a Christian, God aligns with you, and he actually orders your steps in a particular way, and you're able to achieve things. And people look at you like, yo, I had people saying to me like, yo, you're so busy. And I'm like, you got so many talks. I'm like, I do. I didn't even realize that I was actually super busy the first few months of this year, making great income. My forecast was amazing until this thing happened. So what does it mean for us now in this COVID space? You know what? Pull out that vision board. How about we unlearn it and reevaluate it and refix it and rechange it, repurpose it? Because reality and a new normal, and everyone's been talking about the new normal, so I want to talk about it very, very quickly. I think there are 2 normals coming up. So there is the interim new normal, which is basically still living under the threat of COVID. Whether we move from level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I think the way we interact with people would have changed from a health point of view. We're going to have to continue social distancing, wearing masks, and if we get to fly, we're going to have to wear these suits. I'm sure you've seen them on TV, full on gear, and
Yes.
ask thingy. It will be like something from the FBI files. But that's going to be, for me, an interim normal. When eventually this pandemic kind of dies away and hopefully nothing else comes up quickly, there will be a new normal. And that new normal, I believe, will be driven by advances in technology. Because what we have learned now during lockdown is that actually, the world can continue rotating because we can adapt and we can do things differently. And in fact, a lot of
Yeah.
organizations are beginning to see great opportunities for efficiencies during this lockdown. So what does that say for real estate? Do I really need an office building to go to? So people like Liberty and Old Mutual and these guys who own a lot of property, they're going to have clients
You
saying,
have to.
after this thing has happened, we don't need
Mm,
so many offices anymore. We don't need people to come to us because they still can make money for us from their homes. We just may need to learn how to remotely manage people. And I think those are some of the new normals that will take place, is the way that we interact with people, the way that we travel. These Zoom conferences are inexpensive for clients on the
yeah.
whole. So there will be some saving there from flights and hotel accommodation. And I still think there will be business for speakers like you and I to be able to
Mhm.
create this. Some people want to have an annual conference and people get together and they hug and they can do all these team building activities. So
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
two new norms, interim and then the long-term view where the world has really markedly changed. And it hasn't changed because just of COVID. It has changed because COVID has actually helped in the change. It has
Mhm.
brought out new ways of work, smarter ways of work. If we didn't have this, we would continue doing things the old
The
generic
way
way.
we did it.
So this is
Yeah.
great. And if you don't embrace this new way of work, you're going to catch up a year later and realize I could have
It'll
milked
be
it.
too late. Yeah. Okay, we have a question. So, Alex, while you read that question, I just want to invite everyone. It's funny that you mentioned vision boards. My guest on tomorrow's live Instagram session is actually an expert on the vision board. She does vision board workshops in Johannesburg and in other places within the country. Rebecca, she's going to be joining us tomorrow. So, if anyone wants to learn how to actually create a vision board and what the purpose behind it is, that's going to be a really great session to attend. All right, the question, what structure or steps to improve and make changes in one's life? I mean, how can one make the changes such as is effective and one is not frustrated in the process? Because these processes can be quite frustrating. I do agree with him
Absolutely.
there.
I think one of the biggest pitfalls that we fall into is trying to make too many changes in a short space of time. And like,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
so a few years ago, I went to a wellness function and bumped into good friends of mine, Joni Petty and Celine. And Joni had this device where some infrared or ultraviolet light goes
She's
into
so high tech. My
those things.
goodness.
And literally this thing kind of like burns on your hand for a few seconds. And then it measures your cholesterol, your stress levels, your
Really
all
nice.
these things, just an ultraviolet light. And she said to me, Alex, you really are not healthy. And I knew it. And yeah, I know I'm not healthy. So what must I do? She says, you know what? I'm going to send you a list of 10 things you must do.
Wow.
What I didn't hear her saying was a list of 10 things to do over a period of time. So she said on WhatsApp, and I opened this WhatsApp, and it was just healthy stuff. Drink 10 glasses of water a day, exercise, ladder, go for a walk, do this, have greens, cut this food out. Man, I did that. Day one, I was running, I was doing this and that. By day four, I was what?
Mm-hmm.
I was back to my normal routine. So let me
Uh-huh.
ask you a question, Senator. You're asking what is so for me. First thing you have to do is answer the question, why do I need to change? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask myself that question. Why do I need to change? And what is it that I need to change? So you first need to ask yourself those kind of questions before you start trying to change, because maybe you don't need to change. Maybe you need to improve. Maybe you
Yeah.
need to stop. Maybe you need to cut out. Maybe you need to unlearn. So you need to first ask yourself the deep, meaningful questions. And when you ask yourself, why do I need to change? It's going to take you back to what is my purpose? What is the reason for my existence? If you understand that at a core level, then you can say, okay, now if this is my purpose, how do I make it come alive? And that's where you begin to build the building blocks that make your life change. So how do we make it? Give you an example. So I also had this issue with my health. I'm diabetic, and I was vegetarian for 23 years, and then I went back to meat for 2 years. I don't know what I was thinking. End of last year, I decided I'm done with meat. I moved from meat past vegetarianism straight to vegan. And let me tell you, because I was struggling to lose weight. I don't want to lose weight. I want to be under 77 kilograms. I couldn't get under 77. I became vegan within 4 weeks. I was under 77. Now I'm like, it's going too fast now. Now I need to chunk it back up. So I knew what I needed to do. The big challenge most of us have is actually taking action. We know what we need to do. We've become theoretical.
Yeah.
We read everything. We know everything. If you smoke, for example, you buy the box of cigarettes. It tells you, and I'm paraphrasing, if you smoke me, you're gonna die. You still take it out, you'll smoke. We know these things, but we don't act. And so the biggest thing that will shift your life is the decisions you make and the action. Do you implement those decisions? I think that's it. And there's a quote I usually use in one of my talks, and people laugh when I put it up. And the quote says, "To get things done, get things done."
Wow.
Oh, to get things done, get things. Listen, we can go on and be philosophical about everything. I know I want to be healthy. I need to get out of bed in the morning, go do my planks, run on the treadmill. That is getting things done. So don't look for deep things. Deep. Some people like John 3, verse 16, for God so loved the world. We're looking for depth for God. Which God was this? Was this the Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit? So loved. Which type of love? Was this romantic? Was it agape? We break down too many. Sometimes we just need to read on the surface and just do. Okay, that's my bit of advice to you. I hope it works. I hope it helps.
Thanks. We're actually now at the closing, but you just reminded me of something I used to say to myself, because I considered myself a great advice giver. And one day I was going through something that actually was quite similar to what I used to give advice on. And I said, you know what, Zanele? Take your own advice. It's exactly what you were saying, that we all know what we need to do. The answers are there, but it's just all about taking the action. And it works so well when it's the other way around. Yeah. And we say, no, leave him, girl. He is not right for you. But when the tables turn, you know what the advice you would have given is. But because now it's got all of this emotional attachment around it, cling wrapped around it, it's just so different. So any final words, Alex, before we say bye-bye?
Just on that point, I think the hardest thing in changing is taking the first step. That is the hardest thing. You know, refreshing my piano skills. I've been trying to be a prolific pianist. I play piano now and again, but I'm elementary. And so lockdown has helped. I've been watching YouTube videos and, tutors, and I've been doing neo soul and jazz. That's my space. And this one guy was teaching me, and he was like, just learn your scales, Alex. Just learn your scales, C, D, E, F, G, all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Just learn your scales. He says, don't do anything but scales. Man, the first day I tried to do these scales, because I hate scales. I've always hated scales. All the people tried to teach me piano say it starts with scales. I'm like, man, there must be an easier way. I don't want to learn how to read music. I don't want to learn how to write music. Just want to learn how to play. They said, but if you don't understand scales, the basics, the foundation, that goes back to your purpose.
Fundamental.
What are your core values? Let me tell you now, I wish I could just take my phone there. I can play scales in all the keys. I started on the 10th of April. But here's the trick. He says to me, Alex, you don't have to spend an hour doing scales, but you must do a minimum 15 minutes every single day.
Every day. Consistency.
Consistency. Like, it's such a powerful thing. Many of us try to become, we deal more on intensity instead of consistency. We think that if we've got strong muscles and we can outrun somebody else, but consistency is the long game. It's like the truth. You can lie for now, because lie runs fast, but the truth runs a consistent rate. Eventually it'll catch up with you, and you'll be found wanting. But anyway, I think that I've had my say for the day. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for inviting me on. I hope we could do this again. I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you so much, Dr. Alex Granger. No, I would love to do this again. Definitely. This was such a great conversation.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to feel fired up after a conversation like this,
Yeah.
but it's just quite another to actually maintain that. And that's exactly what we've been speaking about. There's so many principles, and I encourage everyone to actually go back and watch this video again. Pick up those lovely nuggets, write them down, write up a schedule, write up a plan, and then actually start to execute, which is one of the biggest things.
DM, I'll give you more clarity or whatever I can help.
Very nice. Thank you so much for making yourself available. We really appreciate this. Thank you for your wisdom. All of the best with your new talk. I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Everyone have a really great morning, evening, afternoon, wherever it is you're watching from. Depends on that. Thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for our conversation with Rebecca on realigning with your goals and the vision board. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.